there's no, there's just no way to do this. CBS was reporting 500 measles vaccines given amid state of emergency. All of a sudden, people say, I can get the vaccine. Sure. My goodness, I don't know. Some of our attitudes about things, I don't know where we get these ideas, and people are opposed to totally all vaccines, anti-vaxxers. I mean, my goodness. But you may have a thought or two. We have a lot on the menu for today. Give us a call. There's other ways to connect with us too.
877-897-8255. That's 877-897-TALK. Dr. Garko's personal email is drgarko@letstalknutrition.com. Follow us, like us, and share us on Facebook at Let's Talk Nutrition. Also on the Instagram at Let's Talk Nutrition, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Let's Talk Nutrition, where everything is archived by date. I'm actually adding titles now, so we're putting titles back up there so you can find it easier.
Why are you doing that?
They came out with a new feature for production on YouTube,
and
it makes it easier now, so we can start linking stuff.
So there'll be the title there too.
Yes, and the date, the guest, and the date, and don't forget they are closed captioned.
So, you do the show every day, and you're you're constantly having to think about shows about health, and so it's always on my mind. And you're thinking about the show, what themes, where do you want to go, what do you want to say, how do you want to say it? It's all constant. This is not a job where you come in, they key the mic, and do your show, then you leave and you're done. No, it's always there. It's just, it has to be. Otherwise, you're going to get run over by the traffic. Too much is happening too quickly, and you have to stay dialed in. And all sorts of stories that trend and ebb and flow. So we try to stay in touch, and you look at the trends and you look at the fads, and it's, you got to watch, especially with diet, and people get pulled in to these weight loss diets, and just when you think they could not come up with another rendition, a new one comes out. And the TV commercials relative to these weight loss diets, one after another after another. And the ones that dominate are those companies that ship food to your house. Now, in and of itself, that's not a bad idea. It depends on what they're shipping. And I was just, as I was watching some of these, I asked myself, are there companies that do this that are not advertising on TV that send you food that's not dead? Dead food. What do I mean? Food that's been so processed, the enzymes have been cooked out of them. And, it's an upgrade on junk food. Some of it. Not all of these companies, but some. I said, is there a healthy alternative? I don't know. Is there a company that's shipping food to your house intended for you to lose weight? But I was watching this one commercial. A guy was saying, and I can eat pizza, and I can eat chocolate cake, and ice cream, and I still lost weight. It's not just about losing the weight, man. It's about your nutritional status. What are you doing to nutritionally upgrade your body? Eating pizza and cake and whatnot and still losing weight. Why is that success? Because you're losing weight? you're most likely going to gain that weight back. And moreover, eating those foods, you reinforce the very behavior that probably got you into trouble in the first place. You know, the cookies, the crackers, the cakes, the colas, the chips, the pizza, I don't get it. It's not just about losing weight. You have to change your behavior. And not only do you have to change your behavior, but you have to change your mind about how you think about food and your relationship with food. So it's more complicated than just losing weight. And you look at the foods and I don't know, these programs are expensive. And all they're doing is managing your calorie intake. That's it. That's all it is. It is about that they know exactly how many calories are in that food, and they know that if they ship you food with X amount of calories, you're going to lose X amount of weight. They're just managing your calories. You could do that. That's all they're doing. That's it. There's nothing magical here at all. Nothing. All those diets are based on calorie restriction, without exception. There has to be calorie management. So I just caution you. And that's the lure. Oh, I can lose weight and still eat pizza and cake, chocolate cake. Come on, man. That's not the prescription that should be written. So I'm just a word of caution. And when people get desperate and they want to lose the weight, you want to have your cake and eat it too. That's the expression that came to mind. I was sitting there watching it. I said, they want their cake and eat it too and lose the weight on top of it. Well, good luck with that.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen up.
have this butterfly-shaped organ, and it's in your neck, and it's called your thyroid. Welcome back to Let's Talk Nutrition. We'll do a little tutorial on thyroid. There's a story trending about thyroid disease being connected to cardiovascular issues. Yet another thing to worry about. An estimated 6% of people in the United States suffer from thyroid disease. I think it's higher than that. About 80% have an underactive thyroid, hypothyroid, and can be hyper or hypo. Underactive is hypo. And they're saying that it can cause a number of health problems such as heart disease. Now, why would that be, I wonder? So, Dr. Crystal Cuevas said that the heart is a muscle and has receptors for thyroid hormone. I'll tell you about thyroid hormone in a minute. Therefore, either the thyroid hormone is too high or too low, that it could essentially affect cardiac function. Hyperthyroidism, or underactive thyroid, presents with multiple symptoms such as cold intolerance, dry skin, fatigue, weight gain, or slow heart rate. Slow heart rate. This can affect the heart in several ways. This is Dr. Cuevas talking. This can cause an increase in cholesterol, which can lead to narrowing and hardening of the arteries, high blood pressure, slow heart rate, or buildup of fluid around the heart. She continues. On the other side, hyperthyroidism, there was a typo in here. It should be the first word should have been hypo. Hyperthyroidism is overactive or excessive thyroid hormone. This can present multiple symptoms such as heat intolerance, weight loss, rapid heart rate, hair loss, and restlessness. Hyperthyroidism, this is where your thyroid's revved up, can also cause the main pumping chamber of the heart to beat rapidly, and over time this can potentially lead to heart failure. Close quote. So, underactive thyroid, that's hypo. Hypo. Anytime you see hypo, that means below. Hyperactive, up. Hypo, down. Hyper, up. Overactive thyroid affects fewer people than hypothyroidism, yet the symptoms can be equally devastating, as Dr. Cuevas is pointing out. You have subclinical, where the person's not presenting with any symptoms, characterized by a suppressed TSH. TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormone. Those levels are suppressed, accompanied by normal thyroid hormones, T4 and T3 levels, and that's been associated with increased rates of cardiovascular disease, arrhythmia in particular. Dr. Cuevas is exactly right. Overt hyperthyroidism compromises, as you may not know, bone health, elevates blood glucose levels, and can cause anxiety. That little organ in your throat is such a controlling organ for so many things. And sometimes they have to remove it because it becomes carcinogenic, it becomes cancerous. And that presents a whole host of other problems. A simple blood test for thyroid stimulating hormone, which is T3 and T4, can reveal all three. TSH, T3, and T4 can reveal an underlying thyroid condition and help direct treatment. So when you get a blood test, you should ask for them to give you a little thyroid panel and do your thyroid. So the thyroid, which is interesting, it's butterfly shaped. It's right below your Adam's apple. It's made up of small sacs. The gland is filled with iodine. Notice, iodine-rich protein, and it. I lost my train of thought here. And it's called, and that iodine-rich protein is called thyroglobulin, along with thyroid hormones, thyroxine, which is T4, and small amounts of triiodothyronine, which is T3. That's why they call them T4 and T3. Who's going to say those big words all the time? So that's sort of what's its shape, its structure, its function. Is to regulate metabolism by controlling the rate at which the body converts oxygen and calories to energy. In fact, your metabolic rate of every cell in your body is regulated by thyroid hormones, primarily T3. So in healthy people, the gland is imperceptible to your touch. A visibly enlarged thyroid is referred to a goiter. You've heard people say that. Goiter was most frequently caused by a lack of dietary iodine. However, in countries where salt is iodized, goiter of iodine deficiency is rare now. That one little organ can change the course of your health destiny. Most people don't even think about it. There's more I can tell you about thyroid. There's so much and how to take care of it. We come back. We have a couple of guests lined up today, too. We'll be back. Today, and he's an interesting guest because he's also he's also a musician, and he besides doing his clinical work as an herbalist and seeing clients and whatnot, he somehow manages to work in his music, which is a good thing. Probably contributes to his wellness more than anything else. Always enjoy having him on. Jazz, welcome back to Let's Talk Nutrition. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Good morning to you guys. Hope all is well and you had an awesome weekend.
So far, so good. In your practice, I was reporting on a story about thyroid health and heart health and how they're connected. Mm-hmm. Do you have many clients come in talking about thyroid issues, either hyper or hypothyroidism?
Absolutely. Thyroid condition is something that I often see.
Really?
For the past 24 years of my practice in Canada, I would say there's literally been hundreds, mostly women, some with diagnosed conditions. Mostly, I would say hypo is what I tend to see, but definitely hyper too, and then certainly some which appear to be symptoms of thyroid dysfunction, which are yet undiagnosed. But yeah, it's something that's I would say relatively common that's seen, and obviously, as you are aware, some of the thyroid conditions can mask. So it will be very similar to some of the symptoms of cardiovascular disease. So it's very, very important that people are aware of what these are and get it checked out.
You're absolutely right about that, about the masking. Yeah. Of course, the thyroid, just for the audience, is part of the endocrine glands. You have the pituitary, the thyroid, parathyroid, your adrenal cortex and medulla, the pancreatic, islets, ovaries, testes, all make up this system. Hypothyroidism is really problematic. I mean, when you look at the consequences, I know you know, gastrointestinal problems, depression and psychiatric disorders, cognitive decline, cardiovascular disease like high blood pressure, high cholesterol leading to atherosclerosis, high homocysteine levels, elevated C-reactive protein levels. Then that's just cardiovascular. Then you have metabolic syndrome. Then you got reproductive system problems. Then there's fatigue and weakness. My goodness. I mean, it can disrupt your whole life. How do you go about treating it?
Certainly, I mean, in terms of, as you mentioned there, the symptoms and the clinical presentation is so wide. Often, it can go misdiagnosed. Often, in my clinical practice, many people come in with an existing disorder that's already been diagnosed through their physician. And obviously, as a herbalist, I'm not able to diagnose, but sort of just looking at what's going on, and if there are any concerns, and obviously making sure that they follow up with their doctor to get the appropriate testing done, and getting the thyroid function test done. There are some other parameters that can be looked at. Often measuring basal body temperature is definitely one. An iodine patch test to see how people are absorbing iron.
Could you explain to the listener and the viewer the relationship between iodine and the thyroid?
Sure. Iodine is a key mineral that's basically needed, a trace mineral that's needed with regards to the formation of some of the hormones that are involved with the actual thyroid gland. So it's basically one of the key sort of building blocks that's often lacking, that can cause disruption with, hormones T3, T4, TSH. So that seems to be not only, but seems to be one of the major missing links or deficiencies that can disrupt and obviously cause challenges with metabolism, with temperature regulation, with that. So often that needs to be sort of looked at and addressed. And
can you measure a client's iodine, whether they're deficient in iodine?
There is ways in which, in sort of the naturopathic world, one of the ways in which it can be done is what's known as the iodine patch test. And that's a relatively simple test. I mean, if your listeners were to Google that, there's some information out there. But it's basically just going to your local pharmacy, drugstore, picking up some iodine solution. So it's relatively inexpensive. It's a small bottle of a solution that often looks sort of an orangey color, and putting and how that's done at first thing in the morning after showering. Put in a small patch on your skin in a discrete area. Let's just say like the inner arm or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just the size of a small corner, and you'll see that it will stain your skin a sort of a yellowy, orangey color. And then to note the time, and what we do is throughout the day observe that patch every few hours and observe how well that color seems to be either remaining there or slowly disappearing. And this is iodine solution. So and the basic premise behind this is that if your body is lacking iodine, it's gonna soak up that faster. So we're gonna see that patch disappear sooner, and ideally, you measure it within 24 hours, and if it's still there, that means there may not be a deficiency. So that's one of the tests.
That's clever. Turns out that iodine is the key for thyroid health. Iodine is a key to your healthy thyroid and efficient metabolism, and comprises a large part of the thyroid hormone molecule itself. Even the names of the different forms of thyroid hormone reflect the number of iodine molecules attached. T4 has 4 iodine molecules attached to it. T3 has 3. Imagine that. Showing what an important part iodine plays then in thyroid chemistry. Iodine deficiencies, take note of this, is one of the 3 most common nutritional deficiencies. You wouldn't believe that in the 21st century, but it's true, along with magnesium and vitamin D. Can't make it up. I mean, those are as much available as you breathing the air is. But yet, because people don't eat right, they get into trouble. But I know you didn't come here to talk about the thyroid, but it's connected to heart health, Chaz, right?
Absolutely.
I want to commend you on. You didn't have a clue that I was going to ask you about this. Everything you said was right on point.
Thank you.
You didn't make stuff up, brother. I'm impressed. Yeah, you know what you're doing there. I learned so much. I know who's real and who's not. You're real, brother. You know what you're doing. I love it. We'll be back. Jazz Mattu is my guest, and Jazz is a practicing herbalist in Canada. Sees clients. Is that an unusual practice, Jazz? I mean, how do you? Forgive me for saying, market yourself or present yourself to the world as a professional? How do you do that? What do you say? I'm an herbalist. Come see me. What?
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, herbal medicine or herbalist is fairly well recognized. I graduated and did my training in the UK, where it's fairly well recognized, and this is going back, 25, 30 years ago.
Wow.
It's changed quite significantly. And coming here to Canada, I did, 20 years, 25 years ago, I would say, it wasn't as recognized. Yeah, it's still an unregulated profession. There are professional organizations, but amongst Canadians and North America, herbal medicine is starting to become very well recognized as one of the oldest forms of medicine. As you know, there's Western herbal medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, and various versions of different, forms of herbal medicine. But in terms of marketing myself, I would say I really haven't. In fact, in my
probably word of mouth, right? Is it word of mouth? One patient telling
Absolutely.
another. Is that it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Are you licensed?
Not through the regular provincial government or the federal government, but there is a regulatory body here in BC called the Canadian Association of Herbalists, and one is a professional member of that. I'm also a professional member of one of the largest institutes in the world called the National Institute of Medical Herbalists.
I'm aware.
In the UK. I'm part of certain associations within Canada, and this is basically just a regulatory body that are sort of governing.
Sure. I get it.
Practice and making sure it's more from the public's perspective that they know that
it's part of your credentials and your credibility. What kind
Absolutely.
of patients come see you? Are these people that are off the grid? Are these people that have given up on conventional medicine? Why are they coming? I mean, who is that patient? What's the client profile for you?
You know what? The clients that come in are people of all walks, from young to old, from male to female. I would have to say mostly female, in my practice, and mostly adults. I mean, I do from time to time see children, and it's really people from all walks of life. And this, as we know, I mean, and I'm generalizing. Doesn't a person really have to be dialed in to say, you know what, I'm going to go see an herbalist? I mean, you know what? For me, my experience has been sometimes, many years ago, people would come because they're probably somewhat desperate or inquisitive as to what I do.
See.
And or like I said, I mean, they're desperate for other answers. They're seeking other alternatives or other things to complement, their health.
Sure.
So they're coming in, and you're absolutely right. Some are coming in desperation because, they're fed up with regards to what's going on and with what they're getting and looking for answers.
I understand. I was just curious because, we have a lot of guests that come through here and experts of one stripe or another. And I have always had a great regard. I've had world-class, including yourself, herbalists on this show. I mean, literally, people that in the world of herbalism are like movie stars. And I've learned a lot from them. And what I have found to a person, including yourself, is extensive background and training. This is not some whiz-bang kind of field. And they continue to study. And I don't know. You don't know Roy Upton, do you, by any chance?
No, I don't.
He's with Source Naturals. He's an herbalist. Okay. I mean, he went to China, lived in China. I mean, some of these people, they do all sorts of things to get, really educated and professionalized, and, no such word, but you get my point. But I must say, you've been on a number of times, and I don't need to ingratiate myself with you, but I'm just telling you that I pay attention to what guests say and how they say it, and I'm checking their work all the time. And I was telling Gary during the break, I said, over time, Jazz has really emerged as somebody that when I hear you talk, I'm paying it. You're on the money every time. You're on the money.
Thank you.
So
thank you very much.
You're probably saying, "Well, of course I am, you dummy." I'm just, what do you think? But
No,
I'm
not
just.
at all. You know what? I mean, in this profession, to be quite honest, I mean, I've done some teaching in the past. I tell my students in this profession, and as you probably know this too, this is a learning process. Every day we're learning and absorbing information, and I always think myself as a student, and
Me
it's
too.
great. I mean, I'm blessed. I have spent quite a bit of number of years studying, obviously, and continue to study.
Yeah,
And
me too.
It's something that I'm passionate about. But yeah.
I'm with you. So,
Yeah.
why did you attach your wagon to Strauss? I mean, you could do a lot of things. I mean, that's your brand. There must be something in your mind about all of that.
Well, first of all, being Strauss being a herbal formula, I mean, as a herbalist, I'm very much, connected universally to herbs. And being a herbal formula and being originated from Europe, I've known about Strauss many, many years when I was at school learning herbal medicine in the UK. My lecturers often spoke about Strauss heart drops being from Europe and
Wow.
formulations, how effective they were. So we grew up with that, and although for many years I've had my own dispensary where we've got tinctures and creams and lotions and potions, and where one can custom formulate too, individual herbs and put them together. There's lots of options, but obviously my association with Strauss. When I came to Canada, we got to know the product, saw the product in the store.
So in your mind, it's legitimate.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
100%. Mm-hmm. I wanted to hear you say it. The audience needs to hear you say it.
Absolutely.
In other words, you got to put your name on it. You know what I'm saying?
You do. Yeah, I mean, you do. It's my go-to number one product when it comes to cardiovascular health.
All right, we come back. We're going to talk about it. That was my way of trying to inform the audience, make them aware about this product. It's not just about something in a bottle. That's not what this is about. That's not what this show is about. That's a formulation. That's an herbal formulation that's been around for a long, how many years? How many years?
It's 5 generations.
5 generations in the family. Okay? And the Canadian government, I mean, for that product, it's almost legendary in Canada. It's made its way into into North America, throughout North America, and the U.S., of course. But that was my way of just trying to make you aware of the quality of the product. Thank you, Jazz. We'll be back. Talk Nutrition. Thanks for stopping by today. Hope you had a good weekend. Didn't commit too many nutritional and lifestyle violations. Now you're here, you're listening and watching, so it's all good. I know that many of you are confronted with health challenges. I know this because I hear from you. And I know that it can get difficult, especially if you're alone, if you live alone and you're sort of, literally on your own, get isolated. Know that you can always call this show. You can always contact me, and we're here to listen and to direct you in whatever way to get you, onto a path where you can address your health issues. That's why the guests are here. I mean, that's what the show's about. So I just want to make, lest we forget, and lest I forget to tell you that that's why we're here. And then some of you have a great support system, but still, you're looking for confirmation of what you're experiencing. What am I experiencing? Is it real, or is this in my head? Am I unusual? Sometimes we just confirm what you're already experiencing. You have experts come on, or myself will report about certain things, say, yeah, that's exactly what's going on with me. That can be comforting in many ways. And then again, too, we're trying to, I can't diagnose and treat, nor do I want to. I'm not an MD. I'm a PhD, just trying to get along, as I always say. But we can talk about the ideas. We can talk about the issues. We can talk about the research, the science of things, and what the literature tells us and what experience tells us. And then it's up to you to make those choices, ultimately. And you should always talk with your physician about what you're learning, what you're going to do, whatever therapy that you might want to. Too many people self-treat without telling their physician, and they self-treat and doing things that they read about on the internet, and that's all they got. What we're trying to do is fill in the picture with the data. Show me the data. What do the data tell you? So, for example, when we're talking about, like today with Mattu, about cardiovascular health and Strauss heart drops, well, I mean, okay, it's an herbal formula, all right. Where did it come from? What is that formula about? What are the herbs? What do we know? What is some of the clinical evidence that we may have that the product works, and so on? After all, you are, as I always say, you're not buying a shirt. This is something you're going to put inside your body, not on your body. So we have to be prudent in our attempt to try and not just inform, but educate you about that product, what's intended to do, and what it might be able to do for you, or anything that we talk about on the show. I'm just want to make sure that we understand that that you understand why I'm here, why we show up here every day. It's not just about, as I said in that last block from that first hour, this is not just something in a bottle. Some people, it can be life-changing. It can. There's a lot of hocus pocus out there. Boy, and that's and to wade through all of that, it's like you're somebody dropped you in the Amazon jungle and you're chopping you're with a machete, you're trying to clear a path to find some light. That's what it's sort of like sometimes.
I don't know if you remember earlier last year, we had a company that wanted to come on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And we vetted them.
I do remember.
2 weeks. We looked into everything they were doing,
mm-hmm.
and you said no.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want them.
No. Why? Because, Gary, there are human beings sitting out there listening and watching this show. It's not just an audience. It's an individual. It's a person. And you're on the air and you're saying things. And if they're making the attribution that you're credible and you're honest, then you better be credible and honest and tell the truth as you know it. This is about somebody's life. This is not just something in a bottle. It's just not. And I'm not going to put the brand of the show, my brand, yours, or anybody else's affiliated with the show in jeopardy by having a sponsor that is questionable. Just not going to do it. It's not worth it. Not worth it. In the end. We've been very fortunate over the years to have good sponsors, good people come on. Jazz Mattu, for example. There's a guy. He lives in Canada. He's got a clinic. He sees clients every day. He's an herbalist. He's trying to help people. Comes on to the show. Talking about Strauss heart drops. All of that has to translate into something meaningful for the listener and the viewer, Gary. And if it doesn't, then we're wasting their time, our time, and we're doing harm. And we're doing more harm than good in the end. And there's always a faster gun in town. There's always somebody's going to know something more than you, something that you don't know it better. That's all well and good. But at the end of the day, you better tell the truth as you know it. You better be sincere, and you better let that audience member know you care about them. That's what they're looking for. And then, of course, you have to know what you're talking about. And with that, the aforementioned Jazz Mattu is my guest. Jazz, welcome back to the show.
Great, thank you.
Did any of that make sense to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is important. In fact, it's vital that, our clients, our customers, our listeners, our people that are watching this really understand what you guys are doing there, the information that you're sharing, and the importance of that, and making sure in this profession we really have to be, in this industry, really be conscious as any profession, as to what we say, what we share, and that important information. Whilst there's a lot of information that may not have all the scientific validation or the answers that we're looking for in order to qualify, but there again, there's lots of information, which some of it may be empirical information or information
that's right. Sometimes we don't have the clinical trials. We don't even have an observational study. All we have may be people in different cultures, groups over hundreds and thousands of years doing something, and that's data as well. And so that leads me to ask you this question. How hard is it? You have Strauss heart drops. That's a formulation that was put together by Dr. Strauss. That's been in that family for 5 generations. How hard is it to think about this during the break, to formulate, a potion, whatever you want to call it? Think, what would be the answer to that? What goes into that? And what about the Strauss heart drops? What's that formulation about? I'm sure he just didn't pick things at random. He had something on his mind. So when we come back, if you could explain, one, the challenge of formulating a product or a medicinal product or a drug for that matter, whatever it might be, and what about Strauss heart drops? What's it constituted of? How is it intended, all those different compounds to work together? Let's see what that's all about. We'll come back. We'll talk to Jazz some more. Here's my guest with Strauss Herbals, if you will. Visit there. We'll get you the website here in a second. Gary wants to tell you how to connect with this show. You've got to give him something to do.
You can reach us at 877-897-8255. That's 877-897-TALK. Dr. Garko's personal email is drgarko@letstalknutrition.com. Follow us, like us, and share us on Facebook at Let's Talk Nutrition, on the Instagram at Let's Talk Nutrition, and subscribe again to that YouTube channel, Let's Talk Nutrition, where we have over 62,000 views, 1,100 videos. It's closed caption for the hearing impaired, and you get an alert every time we come on live.
The history of herbalism is intimately linked to the history of medicine. And in one article I was reading, they said from prehistoric times up until the development of germ theory of disease in the 19th century. That's pretty remarkable. I think herbalism was around before traditional medicine as we know it. People and cultures were trying to figure out how to use plants, herbs and spices to better their health. And lest we forget that. My guest knows a lot about that, and he is an herbalist practicing in British Columbia, right?
That's correct.
Yep, and Vancouver, and he is with Strauss Herbals, the good company. What's the website that people can visit, Jazz?
The website is heartdropsforlife.ca, and that's with the numeric number 4, heartdropsforlife.ca.
Yeah, Strauss Naturals. First of all, how hard is it to formulate an herbal potion? You call them, what do you call them? Potions? What do you call them?
I call them either tinctures. If I'm talking about the liquid, then I often refer to them as tinctures or elixirs.
Okay, so is Strauss Heart Drops an elixir?
It is. You could call it a tincture or an elixir. The traditional name from centuries is elixir, and then more modern name or newer name is tincture. But either of them are very much.
I like elixir.
Yeah, my clinical practice is actually called elixir. That's the name of my clinical practice.
I'll be darned. So, Mr. Strauss, Dr. Strauss, when he put that formula together, what was on his mind, if you know? What's that formulation all about? What's it intended to do?
Well, I can speak as a herbalist. As a herbalist, and I'm probably similar thoughts with the Strauss family. When it comes to formulating, the key fundamental thing is having an understanding of the plants. This is where this medicine's coming from. We're surrounded by plants, and within the plants, often we talk about chemicals that are pharmaceutical. We also have chemicals that are natural, non-synthetic products that are found in plant extracts. In echinacea, in garlic, in milk thistle, in various different plants out there. So understanding the plants, and in nature has provided certain chemicals, and let's call these chemicals certain groups like, flavonoids or resins or anthocyanidins or tannins or volatile oils. There's various different groups of these chemicals, and certain chemicals in plants are giving about a certain physiological action. Some are relaxing the nervous system, some are stimulating the nervous system, some are acting as analgesics, as painkillers, others are working on dilating vessels or constricting vessels. So all of these ingredients or chemicals, let's call them, for instance, flavonoids, which are one of the key ones that are found in the Strauss Heart Drops, in the hawthorn that's in there, in the cayenne that's in there, in the bilberry. So flavonoids have an action as an antioxidant, but they also have an action in this particular case, helping with the vascular integrity of blood vessels.
Do they?
So when formulation, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, are the compounds in here, each one is doing a different thing, but
Absolutely.
and then
Absolutely.
doing different things, but doing it. Is it like a symphony orchestra where you have the violins doing one thing, the violas another, the trombones, and everybody's doing something different, but they come together to make a melody, if you will, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It is. It's really a sort of a synergy of these plants, a synergy of these constituents coming together and creating a particular action. So coming back to your question of how do we go about formulating my thoughts when I have clients that come in and I speak to them, my thoughts are, okay, what's going on down here? What's sort of needed? What can I suggest that's going to... And I don't think necessarily of what the plant may be. I think what sort of things do I need tannins? Do I need flavonoids? Do I need resins? Do I need something that's antimicrobial or whatever? And so then I think about the plant. So I'm assuming that was the case with the Strauss family. We're looking to develop a heart, for someone with cardiovascular disease. Perhaps it was high blood pressure. What plants will have this? We know that hawthorn does. We know that cayenne does. We know that garlic certainly does.
Do you know, did Father Strauss ever put on paper why he formulated this product?
Absolutely. There's documentation.
Okay, save your thought. We're going to close this block out. We'll come back with that. I often wonder what inspires people to do something like that. Usually it's something personal, something that happened to them or a family member, and out of necessity, they put something together. I don't know what the story here is. We'll find out. Strauss Heart Drops, it is been around for decades and decades and decades, and a lot of people have been helped by that product. It works. They keep using it. So, herbs. I was when you read the history of herbalism, I was reading this one account, and I'll quote from this source. They said some of the earliest herbalists of the past were the shamans or medicine keepers of a tribe. Shamanism was even practiced in Paleolithic times, which I didn't know. Ancient cave art, dated as 30,000 years old, shows evidence of shamanic practices first being used. Thousands of years later, around 4000 BC, the tradition of shamanism developed in Eurasia. And it goes on in talking about herbs and native plants being integral to the practice of helping people with their health. So herbalism has been around for literally thousands and thousands of years. If there wasn't some merit to it, if it were not legitimate, it would not have survived. These are chemical compounds, and it is chemistry. And an herbalist is an elegant chemist in a way. It's art and science. You got to know what you're doing. You don't want to blow up the lab. My guest is Jazz Mattu. Jazz, welcome back. So in the Strauss heart drops, you have different compounds, different chemical compounds doing different things at the same time. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a number of different plant extracts in there: garlic, hawthorn, mistletoe, motherwort, cayenne, bilberry extract, willow bark, and all of these particular plants have particular constituents, ingredients, chemicals that are working together in synergy, helping to address the issue of cardiovascular health. Supporting it. Some are working regulating, some are working at toning.
Well, let me try to pin you down and be specific. For the listener and the viewer, are some of these compounds relaxing the arteries? Are some of these compounds dilating the arteries? Are some of these compounds trying to repair the arteries? You see, can you speak in those terms?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, for instance, if we take hawthorn, hawthorn, which the Latin name is crataegus. This is a plant that, if we was to Google this name, there's studies and there are monographs out there which document for centuries and centuries. The integral part of this is a compound that's known as flavonoids. There are several groups of classifications of flavonoids: isoflavones, flavones, anthocyanidins, and names that perhaps we may be familiar with. All of these have a compound, and in this particular formula and this particular
what do they do?
They're basically some of these are working on regulating the actual the rhythm of the heart. Some of them are actually working on the SA node, the AV node. Some of them are actually working on relaxing, and helping the blood vessels to dilate, open to allow blood flow to go through the vessels easier. Some of the plants like motherwort, for instance, Leonoris cardiaca, is actually working on relaxing the blood vessels, relaxing the cardiac nerves. Hawthorn, garlic, as we know, is a plant that has certain compounds in there, sulfide compounds in there, allicin in there, that's working on keeping the blood cells healthy, keeping the blood flowing. So there are a number of components that are very specific on certain areas in terms of cardiovascular health, regulating them.
No, that's good. That's a nice description. Are any compounds in there addressing the oxidized cholesterol that may be wedged in the in the intima and causing the plaquing? Do any of the compounds address the plaquing?
Yeah, certainly. The number one compound in plant extract in the Strauss formula would be addressing that would be garlic. I mean, there are a few others in there, but predominantly it would be garlic. And as we know, we've spoken about it for centuries and centuries. There's a lot of documentation and clinical studies to support that, extracts of garlic are known to be very, very, very beneficial in terms of cholesterol management. So when we're looking at, the lining of the vessels and as you described within the different layers of the endothelium tissue, with cholesterol plaque buildup, this would help with that. So certainly, yeah, so garlic would be one of the main ones. Hawthorn, of course, is another one that will help to support that too.
I see. 877-897-8255. 877-897-TALK will get you in touch with Jas Mattu. So I know that the product has a guarantee on it, and that guarantee, I mean, there's not very many dietary supplements that do that. There's a certain risk in doing that, especially if the product doesn't work. It can be costly to a company, but Strauss doesn't worry about that because they know the product works. What is the nature of the guarantee? What does the person have to do?
So the guarantee is that the company are very, very confident that the product will work. So this is based on, people taking obviously the recommended dosage for a certain period of time. And typically, and this is generalizing, that is usually taking around 7.5 mils a day, which is approximately about a teaspoon and a half on a daily basis for a period of about 90 days. They believe that, over the period of 90 days, one's going to notice some positive changes with regards to their cardiovascular health, whether it may be reduction in cholesterol or reduction in blood pressure or the sensation of circulation improving, et cetera, et cetera. So they guarantee their product, and this guarantee doesn't come lightly. You're absolutely right. I mean, up to my knowledge, and I'm not involved in the sales so much side of it or anything like that, but up to my knowledge right now, and I can speak only for myself, I haven't had my clients come back and say, hey, you know what, this product doesn't work, I want a refund or whatever and stuff. So, and I don't believe the company have had that. I may be wrong, but I don't believe they do. So it's obviously an indication that after 7 generations, this family's got it right. We've got the formula right. This is what the magic is happening, and it's working. People are getting good results.
So they have to go to the doctor. What do they do? Get a blood test done, get a baseline established, then take the product for 90 days, and then go back and have another test, and to see if there's is that essentially what has to be done?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
so the company just asked if there's some clinicals that they can do, whether it's a left ventricle ejection fraction, a coronary score, or carotid artery scan, or something like that. That would give some clinicals before and after.
All right. Again, there are not very many products in the natural product space that put a guarantee on it, money back guarantee. That's interesting. We'll be back. We'll have the LTN health question of the day, guaranteed.
Want to get at the core issue?
Hey, according to the CDC, I'll set this up for you. About 735,000 Americans, adults, will have a heart attack every year. Think about that. That's stunning. Of that number, 525,000, that's a first heart attack. And 210,000 happen in people who already had a heart attack. So you can see that this business of heart health is of some importance. How many people in the United States die of heart disease every year? How many? What do you think? You think it's 410,000, 610,000, or 1 million? How many people in the U.S. die of heart disease? 410, 610,000, or 1 million? If you have the right answer, you'll win a $25 supplement gift card.
877-897-8255. That's 877-897-TALK.
Now, I'll give you a hint. Coronary heart disease is the most common type of heart disease. That's where your coronary arteries are diseased, right? The arteries in your heart. About 370 people die from that every year. So there's a hint. Jazz, welcome back. We are vulnerable. The endothelium, that lining of the arteries, is very vulnerable. It's only one layer thick of cells. That's it. Endothelial cells. So not much there. It's interesting that that natural selection didn't do a better job in making that lining of the arteries, the vessels, a little bit more, how can I say, protective or enduring to damage.
Durable.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I guess when we were created, and our bodies were created, we were eating cleaner, we were more active, and we weren't as stressed, and
so you don't think there was a necessity to have it be that way?
I think we were designed the way we were designed because of how we were living. And if we go back, and you said earlier in the show, plant medicine has been around since dinosaurs, since the world existed, and people were eating plants. And at that time, life was different. These days, we're unfortunately bombarded by so much, things that impact our body to what it was many, many years ago. The quality of our water,
Jazz, there is evidence that shows that ancient remains. We have found the remains of our ancient ancestors, whether it's the Utsi Iceman or the Egyptian kings in their tombs, whatever. And when they do examine the arteries of the heart of the remains, they find in many cases that they were diseased even then.
Yeah, I'm sure there was. There were certain diseases, as we know historically, that are there. But my point is just going back down here is, you think
that the rate of disease is greater today than it was with our ancient.
Absolutely, that's changed. We've changed. Our world has evolved in so many ways.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That. We only have to look at the cancer stats and how they've changed to what was 1 in 100 to 1 in 50 to now 1 in 10. So
yeah, no, I'm with you. You're right, 100%. Full stop. I agree with you 100%. You're right. That's not as if these diseases didn't exist. Cancer existed then too. It's the rate, the prevalence, and the incidence. Let's go to Philly. Let's go to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Charlotte lives there. Charlotte, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
Thank you. It's great being on.
Yeah, nice to.
The answer is C, 600.
You're right. Yeah, 610,000 die of heart disease every year. You know what, Charlotte? That's one. If you were to walk down the street and see people at random, every fourth person you would see would die of heart disease the coming year. 1 in 4.
Well, I'm hoping that I'm not in that category because I do have I have plaque buildup in my arteries, and so I'm suffering with that, and I'm just really looking for something to help me out. So
Strauss Heart Drops. Strauss Heart Drops are, you heard for the last hour and a half we've had Jazz talking about Strauss Heart Drops. They're sold in fine health stores. Holly Hills are up in your neck of the woods. I'm sure they carry it.
Right.
You might consider it. I don't know how advanced your disease is, but it's never too late. You can always do things to improve the condition. No matter what anybody says, you just don't give up and just let things take their course. So.
No, that's going to be my next stop. Is up there to get these drops. So. All
right. So know this too. It does taste like garlic, so it's potent. You have the cinnamon. You have the one with the cinnamon, right, Jazz? Jazz.
We do.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have the cinnamon flavored one too, and that's a nice one. That's definitely one to consider. It just takes the edge off the garlic a little bit.
Yeah. So if you like to taste the garlic, you're in clover.
Well, I like garlic, but I don't want to smell like garlic.
Okay. Well, you can mix it with a little water. It won't hurt.
Yeah.
Cut it a little bit that way, but the product has a long reputation of being very effective. Congratulations.
Thank you so very much.
Oh, you're welcome, Charlotte. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. And appreciate you too, Jazz. Thank you for coming on and educating the audience about herbalism, about herbs, and your practice, and Strauss Naturals, StraussNaturals.com, Strauss Heart Drops, Heart Drops 4, Arabic numeral 4 Life, HeartDrops4Life.com. Are you working today, or are you gonna just hang out?
No, working today. I'm going to be in the office a little bit later on today. But yes, it's a beautiful day. We started to spring's really picking up down here. So
it's beautiful in Vancouver, man. All right,
absolutely.
You take care of yourself. Hopefully, we'll get to see you in person sometime.
Absolutely.
I hope you come to Tampa. You're always welcome to come into studio. We'd love to have you. Even if you're not scheduled, just let us know. We'll bring you in.
That would be great. Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Strauss Heart Drops. Keep it in mind. Keep your heart in mind. No, those arteries are vulnerable. We all are, but they are for everybody. In the meantime, your health is your wealth, and your health is the wealth of those that care about and love you. I'll see you tomorrow.
Everyone's raving about the newest botanical superstar hitting the store shelves nationwide. Hemp-derived cannabidiol, or CBD, has been receiving a lot of attention